If your child is unbearable, exhausting, constantly challenging you, embarrassing you in public and draining everything you have, this is not bad luck, and it is not a phase. This is not a strong personality or a child who was born difficult. This is the visible consequence of an invisible mistake that you repeat every day, often with good intentions, often out of love, and often out of pure exhaustion. You live inside chaos. Mornings start with tension. Nights end with guilt. You've tried being calm, patient, understanding. You've tried explaining, negotiating, softening your tone, and nothing changes. Your child doesn't listen, doesn't stop, doesn't respect limits, and you feel yourself disappearing inside your own home. You love your child deeply, and that's exactly why this hurts so much. Love is not what's missing here. What's missing is structure, and no one warned you that love without limits doesn't create safety. It creates confusion, anxiety, and power struggles that your child cannot handle. Every time your child ignores you, challenges you, screams, whines, or controls the environment with behavior, something inside you breaks a little more. You start doubting yourself. You start questioning your instincts. You wonder if you failed, and that thought follows you everywhere. You're afraid you've lost authority, afraid you're raising a child the world won't tolerate, afraid that what you see now is just the beginning of something worse. And that fear is not irrational, because this doesn't magically fix itself with time. So listen carefully. This will hurt your pride, but it might save your relationship with your child. If your child is unbearable, the problem is not who they are. It's the environment they're growing inside of. You walk around with a knot in your chest that never fully goes away. Even in quiet moments, your body is tense, waiting for the next outburst, the next refusal, the next public scene. You avoid invitations. You dread going out. You plan your days around your child's reactions. And slowly, without noticing, your world starts shrinking because everything feels like it could explode at any moment. You tell yourself you should be more patient, more loving, more understanding. You replay situations in your head and think about what you could have said differently, how you could have handled it better. And the guilt grows heavier, because nothing you try seems to work. Instead of feeling closer to your child, you feel controlled by them, trapped in a dynamic you don't recognize and don't know how to escape. And the hardest part is the silence around this reality. No one talks about how lonely this feels. No one prepares you for the shame of loving your child, and at the same time, feeling overwhelmed, irritated, and lost. You smile on the outside, but inside you're thinking, something is wrong, and I'm terrified that it's my fault. This is not tantrum behavior. This is not a disorder. This is not trauma. This is not genetics. And no, it's not because school doesn't understand your child, or because society is too harsh. Stop searching for explanations that keep you comfortable and powerless. Children don't wake up one day deciding to be difficult. They become difficult when the adult in front of them collapses emotionally, when limits disappear, when authority is replaced by endless talking, when the child becomes the emotional center of the house. You were taught that if you explain enough, stay calm enough, and validate enough, your child will cooperate. That belief sounds gentle, but it is destructive. Children don't respond to explanations. They respond to structure. You were taught to fear discipline, to fear frustration, to fear your child's tears, and in trying not to hurt them, you handed them something far heavier than limits. Control. A child who controls the environment does not feel powerful. They feel unsafe, and anxiety always leaks out as bad behavior, defiance, and chaos. This is not about your child being difficult. This is about you being afraid to fully occupy your role as the adult. You keep looking for a label, because a label feels relieving. A label tells you that the problem is outside of your control, that it's something your child has, instead of something your child is learning. Labels soften the pain, but they also freeze you in place. As long as you believe there is a diagnosis, a phase, or a flaw inside your child, you don't have to confront the uncomfortable truth that the dynamic inside your home is shaping this behavior every single day. Deep down, you already sense this. You feel it in your body when you hesitate before saying no. You feel it when you give in just to avoid a scene. You feel it when you walk on eggshells around your own child. That hesitation is not kindness. It is fear. And children can feel fear instantly. When they sense that the adult is unsure, they don't calm down. They push harder because they are searching for something solid to lean on. What you call being patient often looks like emotional abandonment to a child. When rules change based on mood, exhaustion, or guilt, there is no ground to stand on. And a child without ground becomes loud, demanding, invasive, and impossible to satisfy. Not because they enjoy chaos, but because chaos is the only language that still gets a response from you. I've seen this pattern hundreds of times. Different families, different stories, different cultures. The result is always the same. A child raised without firm authority becomes loud, invasive, emotionally unstable, and exhausting to be around. Every child who grows without clear limits tests harder, pushes further, demands more, not because they are bad, but because they are desperate for containment. When the adult hesitates, the child escalates. Always. This is not opinion or theory. This is how children are wired. You cannot raise a regulated child while being ruled by guilt. Guilt destroys leadership, and leadership is what children need most. Authority is not violence. Authority is clarity. It is knowing what is allowed, what is not, and not rewriting the rules because you're tired or embarrassed. Every child raised without this becomes exactly what you're living now. Unbearable. Not because they want to be, but because no one guided them. I've watched children become louder, ruder, and more unmanageable right in front of their parents' eyes, not because something suddenly changed in the child, but because the adult kept retreating. Each time the mother hesitates, explains again, or backs down to avoid conflict, the child reads that hesitation as a gap. And children always push into gaps. They don't do it to hurt you. They do it because uncertainty feels dangerous to them. A child does not calm down when the adult becomes softer and more permissive. A child calms down when the adult becomes clearer and more solid. Emotional regulation is not taught through words. It is absorbed through structure. When there is no firm presence leading the environment, the child is forced to test where the walls are. And those tests look like defiance, disrespect, and chaos. What most mothers don't realize is that insecurity in a child often looks exactly like arrogance, stubbornness, or rebellion. The child who talks back, ignores limits, and challenges authority is not confident. That child is lost. And without a strong adult willing to hold the line, that confusion grows into a personality shaped by constant conflict, not by guidance. The mistake is simple, silent, and devastating. You stepped out of the position of authority and placed your child there. You ask instead of deciding. You negotiate instead of directing. You explain instead of enforcing. And your child learned that rules are optional. When a child discovers that crying changes decisions, screaming rewrites limits, and persistence defeats authority, respect disappears. This doesn't stay small. It grows. It turns into a child who challenges everything, and later into a teenager who resents boundaries and blames you. One day, you look back, and the guilt hits harder than any tantrum ever did. Not because you were too strict, but because you were too afraid to lead. And this is the moment where many mothers feel it in their chest and whisper, "My God, this is me." This mistake doesn't look dangerous in the beginning. It disguises itself as kindness, patience, emotional intelligence. You tell yourself you're being a better mother than those who were harsh or distant. But what you're really doing is dissolving the hierarchy that your child desperately needs. When the adult steps down, the child doesn't become cooperative. They become anxious, controlling, and constantly testing because someone has to be in charge. And now it's them. Every time you hesitate, over-explain, or go back on your word, your child learns a brutal lesson. Reality bends under pressure. They don't learn limits. They learn leverage. They learn that emotions are tools, that persistence is power, and that authority is fragile. And once a child learns this, they don't stop using it, because it works. What breaks most mothers is realizing that this pattern doesn't create closeness. It creates distance. The child stops seeing you as a guide and starts seeing you as an obstacle to overcome. Respect erodes, connection weakens, and the relationship becomes a battlefield. And the hardest truth is this: the chaos you're living today is not your child acting against you. It's your child acting according to what you taught them to do. Picture the supermarket. Your child wants something. You say no. They cry. You explain. They cry louder. You feel the eyes on you, the judgment, the pressure. Your heart races. You're exhausted. You give in, not because you changed your mind, but because you needed peace. Your child learned something powerful in that moment. Volume works. Persistence wins. Limits are negotiable. Next time, the crying starts faster and louder. Because it worked before. At home, bedtime becomes a battlefield. Screens become bargaining chips. Every routine turns into a negotiation. And slowly, the child who once followed becomes the one who commands. And it doesn't stop at the supermarket. That same logic follows you everywhere. In the car, your child kicks the seat, screams, demands the phone. You say later. They scream harder. You hand it over just to survive the drive. In that moment, you are not choosing convenience. You are teaching a system. Your child learns that discomfort is a tool, that persistence breaks resistance, and that your no is not real. It's just the beginning of a negotiation. Then school enters the picture. Teachers complain. Other children pull away. Your child interrupts, invades, dominates, explodes when things don't go their way. And you're confused, because at home they're just being themselves. What you don't see is that the world doesn't adapt to a child who was trained to control adults. The world pushes back, and your child pays the price socially and emotionally. At night, when everything is finally quiet, the guilt hits. You replay the day in your head. You wonder where you lost control. You promise yourself tomorrow will be different. But tomorrow comes, and the same pattern repeats, because nothing in the structure changed. The child isn't getting worse by accident. They are simply becoming more skilled at a role you unknowingly gave them, the one in charge. Here's the truth that brings relief. It's not too late. Children change when the structure changes. They don't need more talking. They need consistency, calm firmness, clear limits that don't collapse. When the adult stops breaking down, the child stops escalating. Your child doesn't need a perfect mother. They need a stable one. And stability comes from occupying your role fully, without guilt, without fear, and without negotiation. The moment you change your position, your child's behavior follows. Here's what most mothers don't realize until they're already drowning. Your child is not resisting you personally. They are reacting to the absence of clear direction. Children relax when someone stronger takes the wheel. The chaos you see is not defiance. It's insecurity asking for leadership. And the moment you understand that, the guilt starts to loosen its grip. Structure is not cold. Structure is not harsh. Structure is what allows a child to stop testing, stop pushing, stop fighting the world. When rules are predictable and consequences don't change with your mood, your child no longer needs to scream to be heard. They can finally rest inside the boundaries you provide. And yes, at first, the behavior may intensify. That doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It means the old strategy stopped working, and your child is checking if this new version of you is real. When you stay calm, firm, and consistent through that phase, the message lands. You are here. You are in charge, and your child no longer needs to be. Your child is not unbearable because they are broken. They are unbearable because they are carrying a weight that was never meant to be theirs. Authority is not oppression. It is protection. And love without limits is not kindness. It is abandonment. If this hurt to hear, it's because it touched the truth. And if this made sense, you need to keep listening. Because this is only the beginning of fixing what really matters. Your child is not unbearable because they are broken. They are not flawed, damaged, or too much by nature. What you are seeing is not a defect in who they are, but a symptom of a system that left them without guidance. Children don't misbehave because they want chaos. They misbehave because they are lost inside a role they were never meant to occupy. They are unbearable because they are carrying a weight that was never meant to be theirs. The weight of deciding, controlling, negotiating, and leading. That responsibility belongs to the adult. When a child is forced into that position, their nervous system collapses, and the collapse shows up as defiance, noise, impatience, and emotional explosions. Authority is not oppression. It is protection. It is the invisible structure that tells a child, "You are safe because I am in charge." Without that structure, the world feels unpredictable, and children fight desperately to create control where there should be trust. Love without limits is not kindness. It is abandonment disguised as affection. When you remove boundaries, you remove safety. And a child without safety will scream for it in the only language they have, behavior. If this hurt to hear, it's because it touched the truth. And truth always hurts before it heals. Guilt is not the enemy here. Guilt is the signal that something needs to change. You don't need to become harsh. You don't need to become cold. You need to become clear. Clear in your words, clear in your actions, and clear in your role. Children relax when adults lead. Your child doesn't need more chances. They need more certainty. Certainty about what is allowed, what is not, and who is responsible for deciding. The moment you step back into authority, you remove a burden from your child's shoulders. And when that burden drops, the chaos drops with it. This is not about fixing your child. This is about fixing the structure around them. And when the structure changes, everything else follows.